If you have trouble trusting what basic strategy charts say in terms of some of the harder hands when it comes to blackjack, this video is for you, all right? I'm just gonna take some of the three most controversial hands, you might say, in all of blackjack, and we're gonna put them to the test, playing them out 100 times each, right? I have a soft 18 versus a dealer's 9. I have a 13 versus a dealer's 2, and then a pair of 2s versus a dealer's 3. We're gonna play, like I said, each of these 100 times, and to do this, I have cards that are a little bit different than the ones I'm gonna be playing with, because I'm gonna leave these out as I kind of play with these other cards. This is an 8-deck shoe, which I'll get shuffled up here in a second. But let's start off here with a soft 18 versus dealers now. I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. I'll put these off to the side for this first bit here. And we're only gonna be playing with this one for now, because we have to do it 100 times. I will put it into a hyperlapse eventually, so you can just kind of see the results. But as I play this out, so these are gonna be over here in my shoe, and I'll just kind of show you what I mean, what's gonna happen. All right, so if I were to have a deck here, let's just give this a little quick shuffle. Then first off, I need a bottom card. And basic strategy says to hit. So I'm gonna hit this, and now all of a sudden I have 17, which of course I'm going to stand on. This bottom one is a 15, and now they have 23, which is too many. So over here in my chart, I'm going to play basic strategy. I'm gonna hit this like I just did 50 times, and then I'm going to stand another 50 times. I'm gonna keep track of the wins, losses, and the pushes. So this, in this case, since the dealer busted, would be a win. So I'm gonna put a tally mark in the win column. So first off though, let me get these all shuffled up for us, and then I'll be right back with you. All right, so these cards are all shuffled up now. In fact, this last little chunk I'll put right there in the middle, so you know that it is not gonna be in any particular order. Now it's definitely not. Oops. These are brand new cards, so they're super slippery. Anyway, I'll throw these over here into the shoe for us. By the way, if you also want some brand new cards, if you go to Casino Supply, use code A1BJ, you get cards, chips, discard trays, anything at that site for 10% off if you use my code A1BJ. So that might be something you want to do if you want to do some practice runs of basic strategy or anything else, practice card carrying on your own. Code A1BJ at casinosupply.com. Anyway, I'm going to leave these cards out. These are different than the ones I'm going to be using. All right, and because I'm going to leave these ones here every single time I play. So we've already done one on our chart over here. And let's do maybe 2 more, and I'll throw it into a hyperlapse for the other 47 for our basic strategy section of the soft 18. And so again, I need a bottom card, or a whole card you might say. And basic strategy says to hit. All right, so now we have 20. Of course, we're going to stand. And dealer has 19, so that's another win. Now, one thing that we might start to see is that it might not necessarily be that we win more than we lose, but we might lose less than what we would have to do otherwise. So let's kind of play it out and see what happens. So that's a win. So I'm going to take those cards off. Again, all the other ones are the different kind of, which I'm leaving out. So those will always be out here. And I have that marked up. All right, let's do it again. Oops, I need an undercard there. So again, I have 18, going to stand. Dealer has 19, so that time we did lose. So that's going to get a tally mark in the loss section. All right, and we'll do one more, and then I'll throw it into a hyperlapse for us. All right, so there we have, let's see, that is 12. So that's still a hit. And 22, so that time we lost. Oops, I need an undercard there anyway. So we'll take that, and we probably would have lost anyway, as they would have had a 19. All right, so we have another loss. So currently it is tied 2-2, and I'll be back when I have 50 of these done. So I just finished up those first 50 here, and I think this is our results. They are exactly tied for our wins and losses. and we pushed 6 times. So I think it was a win, 5, 10, 15, 20, 22, a loss 22, and then a push 6. So I think that is a total there of 50. All right, we're gonna do it again. And the common misconception on this hand is that you shouldn't hit, but you should actually stand, because 18 is pretty good. Well, we're gonna see what happens when you do that. So again, I'm gonna do another 50. Let's do about 3 here really quick of me standing, and I'll throw it into a hyperlapse for us. So I don't have to do anything on that one. For this, I'm just going to play the cards on this side. I know that's not technically right. You should flip it over here or whatever, but for the sake of the quickness of this video, we're just gonna do it over here. All right, so that is 14 and 21. So that was a loss right off the bat, as that did not win. And I just have to take these cards because those were standing, right? So that'll stay. Let's do another one, 19. So anytime I pull a 10, it's an automatic loss. And let's do one more. You kind of see where this is going, I think. And yeah, another one. All right, so I will be back here after we get another 50 done. And we're gonna see what the win, loss, and push ratio is after that. All right, I left that last hand up here on purpose because this is what happened a lot of times, is the dealer would just pull a 10, and therefore 19 beats 18 every time. And so it's just an automatic win for the dealer. And so these were the final results. We ended up winning, looks like 17 times. We ended up losing 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 31 times, and then there was 2 pushes. All right, so clearly it is better to hit, right? You will lose less. You might say, might not necessarily win more, but actually, if you take the wins and the pushes together, that was a little bit more than before. I will say that I did this yesterday and my camera died, so I wasn't able to finish the video, so I'm trying it again here. So if you're watching this one worked. But these were the results last time. And actually, you might find this interesting because when we did what basic strategy said, we actually won less. All right, way less than we lost. We lost more times than we won, whereas here they were tied. However, when we stood, we ended up losing way more, okay? And so the results are similar, but if you kind of put those two together, you still will see that you'll end up losing more when you don't play basic strategy than you do when you do play basic strategy. So you might not necessarily put yourself in a better chance to win, but you will lose less. So I know we don't like that idea. So some people are just like, well, don't play to not lose, but if you're playing advantage blackjack, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to play for the long run. All right, we're going to put these cards off to the side now. We're going to try that second hand, which was a 13 versus a dealer's 2. All right, and we're going to do the same thing for this one. So basic strategy says that we should stand on this hand. So kind of like that last one we did here, I'm going to just leave these cards there. We'll give you a $100 chip there. And I'm just going to play these out. So let's do the first few. Here we have 6, 14, and 19. So that time we did end up losing. I have a feeling this one's going to be a situation where we do end up losing less again in the long run. So this was a loss there. Let's do about 3 here. So that's 1, 12, and 19 again. Beats 13, and 12, 21. Okay, so it looks a little bleak, but it might look more bleak when we do what is not to be done, which is basic strategy says to stand. Most people try to hit this hand, okay? So I'll be back with you. I'll do both of these, all 100 here, and I'll be right back with you. right, so 13 versus dealers 2, kind of some really fascinating results here. The losses were the exact same. I think there was 34 in each, whether we stood or hit. However, because when we stood at 13, the dealer can't end at 13. We weren't able to ever push, right? They have to land between 17 and 21 or they bust. And so there was no way to push in that case. But when we hit, we also were able to land in that range of 17 to 21. So sometimes there were pushes allowed. And those pushes, if we were to add those to our win column, then it would be the exact same. But it is better to stand, according to my 100 results there, because there was no pushing, and those pushes would become hits, and so, or would become wins, and therefore we would have one more. All right, we're going to do the last hand now, and this last one's a little bit tricky to get your mind wrapped around what's going on here. And so to help us, I'm going to give us some chips, because I think that's going to kind of show what's going on. As a pair of 2s versus a dealer's 3, the correct basic strategy decision is to split this. So I am always going to start this out by splitting for this first chunk. And in order to, here, let me just open this up. In order to count it as a push, I'm going to say that we end with the same amount of money. So that means that we could lose a hand and then win a hand, and I would consider that a push, all right? Because we didn't win or lose any money. However, a loss would be losing both, or we could even get a third 2 or a fourth 2 even, and then we would lose the majority of that. So you could potentially, let's say I have another 2 out here after maybe I split and I get another one and we'd have to split again. Well, a loss would be like losing more than we would win, whereas a win would be winning more than we would lose, right? Or if it just is those 2, I'll use 2 reds ones. If it is just those 2, then a win, of course, would be winning both, and a loss would be losing both those hands. So let me see if I can give you an example of each, because I don't know if that quite made sense. So let's just start off here. I'm going to cherry pick a little bit of some cards. And there is also one reason that we split 2s against dealers 3 is for double after split opportunities. So for example, if I get an 11, now all of a sudden I have $300 out there. All right, and then let's say this is an 18. I'll just play it out like it is. And a 20. Let's lose one. Okay, so this is 22. So I lost one. I'm going to keep the ones I lose here just so I can remember that. All right, and then the dealer is going to end up with, let's say, 11 and 12 and 22. All right. So I originally had $300 out there, but I'm going to win now. So now there's 400. So I did end up starting, or I ended up finishing more than what I started with. Therefore, I would consider this a win. However, obviously, if that ace wouldn't have been there and they would have had 21, then I would have lost it all, and I would mark that one down as a loss in that situation. So when you split, it's a little bit tricky to kind of calculate, is it a win, is it a loss? And so that's how I'm going to do it. And so tell you what, I think this will probably take more cards than what I currently have. So I'm going to take all these ones, shuffle these up and throw them in the back of the shoe, because these ones in there are already shuffled. Okay, so again, I'm going to throw these just in the back of the shoe here, just like this. And by the way, as we're kind of getting right here, besides the 3 hands that I've been showing today, what's a hand that you would like to see? Maybe comment that down below. I have a feeling I can do more of these and that you guys would like to see different hands. And so I would happily be able to do those for you. All right, so I'm gonna start us off with 100 in each spot here. And let's just kind of work through what basic strategy would say to do in each of these particular situations, right? There's a 2, all right? So we're going to split that again. Tell you what, I'll put that one at the end so I can grab it up easily. All right, now a 12 versus dealer's 3, basic strategy says to hit that. 18, now I can stand. 12 again, all right? And then 16 can stand. Oh my goodness, a lot of 12s. All right, so this one I lost. So I'm gonna bring this over here. That doesn't mean we're gonna necessarily lose the hand in total, but we did lose that one. All right, so those are all this card. All right, now the dealer, they have 8, 13, and 23. So we had 300 out there, and we're gonna end with 400. So therefore, this one is a win. We ended up with more money than when we started. So I'll be right back with you at the end of these 100 hands. Back with the results for the pair of 2s versus the dealer's 3, and these were actually really interesting because it kind of goes against what you might think would happen, but I think there's a reason for that, and let me kind of explain here. So really quickly, what happened was when we split, which is what basic strategy says to do, we had 18 wins, 24 losses, and 8 pushes, which you might think, why are we losing more? But those wins sometimes, remember, you'd split 2s versus dealer's 3 only in a double after split game. So in a lot of those times where we would split and we would get another 2, right? We could split again and we would end up winning 3 or 2 of the 3 hands, and therefore we'd get kind of more money than just than not being able to split there. So I think the double after split is part of the big reason where we would gain that advantage over those kind of many losses, you might say. Whereas when we would just hit the pair of 2s, right, we had more wins, which is really interesting to me, and less losses, and also less pushes. But again, we weren't able to get more money on the felt with some double after split opportunities or splitting again, right? When we would split, like a lot of times we would win those double after splits, which is double the money for that particular hand. So therefore, I think that is why basic strategy says to do that if double after split is allowed. So this is one hand that I think is probably really close. If I were to do this, you know, maybe 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times or whatever and simulate that, I'm interested to see kind of what these numbers would be. Just like if I take a coin and flip it, you know, here's a $50 here. If I were to flip this, here it's heads. If I do it again, it's tails, so it's 50-50 after 2, but if I were to keep going, who's to say, like there's tails, who's to say I'm not going to get a bunch of tail streaks in a row? And so because of that reason, I think we need to get to the long run before we can actually confirm these results. All right, the other ones though, I think are relatively clear that you will, a lot of these hands, they're controversial because you end up losing more, but you lose less if you do what basic strategy says to do. So kind of an interesting idea on those. All right, hopefully you liked this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up down below. That really helps me out. This took way too long to make this video. It's like 2 hours to make all this with dealing and stuff. So I really appreciate your thumbs up. That helps out the channel the best. And until next time, this is A1 Blackjack.